Emotional fluency is emotional awareness, regulation, and self efficacy. Awareness of our big emotions, the ability to manage those emotions effectively in order to advocate for what we need. There probably isn't one of us who hasn't been tested in the attempt to balance professional, physical, social, and emotional wellness. Even our students are expected to balance and manage all of the demands that are placed on them each day. As we adults are managing the stress and big emotions that come with it, we can make sure we're aware of the healthy ways we approach frustration, stress, and anger, and we can model those processes for our students. It may be one of the biggest gifts we can give them. The intentions for today are to consider the role that emotions play in the process of learning and to reflect on our own healthy processes. This way, we can intentionally and consistently teach our students these critical skills. Everything we do is geared toward helping our students become independent and productive learners. I'm going to show you this video that offers great information about the science behind learning.
Science tells us that the experiences we have in the first years of our lives actually affect the physical architecture of the developing brain. This means that brains aren't just born, they're also built over time based on our experiences. Just as a house needs a sturdy foundation to support the walls and roof, a brain needs a good base to support all future development. Positive interactions between young children and their caregivers literally build the architecture of the developing brain. Building a sturdy foundation in the earliest years provides a good base for a lifetime of good mental function and better overall health. So, just how is a solid brain foundation built and maintained in a developing child? One way is through what brain experts call serve and return interactions. Imagine a tennis match between a caregiver and a child, but instead of hitting a ball back and forth across a net, various forms of communication pass between the two. From eye contact to touch, from singing to simple games like peekaboo. These interactions, repeated throughout a young person's developing years, are the bricks that build a healthy foundation for all future development. But another kind of childhood experience shapes brain development too, and that's stress. Good kinds of stress, like meeting new people or studying for a test, are healthy for development because they prepare kids to cope with future challenges. Another kind of stress, called toxic stress, is bad for brain development. If a child is exposed to serious ongoing hardships like abuse and neglect, and he has no other caregiver in his life to provide support, the basic structures of his developing brain may be damaged. Without a sturdy foundation to properly support future development, he is at risk for a lifetime of health problems, development issues, even addiction. It's possible to fix some of the damage of toxic stress later on, but it's easier, more effective, and less expensive to build solid brain architecture in the first place. One of the things that sturdy brain architecture supports is the development of basic emotional and social skills, an important group of skills which scientists call executive function and self-regulation can be thought of like air traffic control in the child's mental airspace. Think of a young child's brain as the control tower at a busy airport. All those planes landing and taking off and all of the support systems on the ground simultaneously demand the controller's attention to avoid a crash. It's the same with a young child learning to pay attention, plan ahead and remember, and follow lots of rules. Like all of us, kids have to react to things happening in the world around them, while also dealing with worries, temptations, and obligations on their minds. As these demands for attention pile up, air traffic control helps a child regulate the flow of information, prioritize tasks, and above all, find ways to manage stress and avoid mental collisions along the way. Having this ability is a necessity for positive and level mental health. Developing effective air traffic control, overcoming toxic stress, and building solid brain architecture are things kids can't do on their own. And since strong societies are made up of healthy, contributing individuals, it's up to us as a community to make sure all young people have the kinds of nurturing experiences they need for positive development. To build better futures, we need to build better brains. So during this session, we ask that you consider this question: how do I manage stress and big emotions? Many of us do it intuitively and may not even be aware of our process. The more aware we are of our healthy processes, the more effectively we can model and teach our students. Everyone has big emotions. They can look different depending on individuality. There are many different things that can happen when we have a big emotion and can cause them. Some of us cry, some of us start to experience stomach issues, some of us shake. Take a moment, reflect on how your nervous system responds to big emotions and stress. What do you notice? Consider the difference between what is physically happening in your body and what is happening in your mind. What is the story you're telling yourself?
When managing our own emotions or helping others manage their emotions, it helps to know about the escalation cycle. We can interrupt self talk, what is happening in our mind, and focus on what is happening in our body. This way, we can wait until our nervous system calms down before we problem solve. This guy in the picture is happy, and then something happens to trigger his emotions. If his fight, flight, freeze mechanism is stimulated, his nervous system responds by escalating, increased heart rate, shallow breathing. When this happens to us, many times our brains search for something to blame. We usually start to tell ourselves a story about what happened. Typically, the story is negative and makes us more upset. We call that negative self talk. We can get so upset that we either blow our top or completely shut down. But we aren't wired to stay that upset forever. So eventually, we will start to de escalate. Many times, this is followed by a period of depression. We may be embarrassed for how we behaved, but we aren't wired to stay that sad forever. So eventually, we'll be back in the okay zone. It can be helpful to understand this cycle for a couple of reasons. When the fight, flight, freeze response is triggered, the first step is to recognize that we're having a big emotion and that we need to calm our nervous systems down. At this point, we lose access to logic. It's best to interrupt the thought process, focus on how the big emotion is impacting us physically, and work on calming our bodies down first. When a child is on this roller coaster, we want to make sure that we don't strap in and go for the ride with them. We want to help them take a break to calm their bodies and minds down. The story can wait. Rethinking where they went wrong can wait. Consequences can wait. Teaching a child to interrupt the escalation cycle and to get their bodies back into the okay zone is a wonderful lesson. Imagine what they will be able to accomplish once they become masters at regulating their big emotions. What can or you can click on the image above for a printable version. This visual can be printed in poster size and is a great tool for helping students start to recognize where they may be on the escalation cycle.
So for our reflection in this session, this can be done individually or something that you share. This week, as you travel through your days, try to remember to be aware of your process for handling big emotions and stress. Speaking it out loud can be really helpful. For example, as a teacher, you find yourself in the classroom. The phone is ringing, there are students talking, there's just a lot of energy in the moment. We often resort to blaming or punishment. This may look like you sighing loudly, rolling your eyes. This may sound like, why is everyone talking? Sit down or we're staying in from recess. Instead, consider this. Say out loud, Boy, the phone is ringing, there's students talking, there's a lot of energy in this moment. I'm feeling really frustrated. I'm going to take a few deep breaths to calm my nervous system down for a moment before I try again. The goal for this week is just think about your process and your path towards getting good at this. This work will help us develop empathy for the stumbling our own students may experience as they start this journey with us.